This is a 2025 Chevrolet Tahoe High Country, the 5th generation truck-based large SUV that Chevrolet just updated with new styling outside, new technology inside, and a more powerful diesel engine option. And this new diesel engine will be offered in all 6 trims: the LS, LT, RST, Z71, Premier, and this top-of-the-line High Country. And it's new for 2025 that the diesel will be offered in the Z71. But even with all these updates, mechanically speaking, Chevrolet largely left the Tahoe alone for 2025. And with so many brands coming out with so much new stuff, the question is that a good thing? Let's find out. I review all kinds of cars, and I have fun every time. Please subscribe and join me. The base price for a 2-wheel drive 2025 Chevrolet Tahoe LS is $60,495. If you instead want a 4-wheel drive Tahoe, generally speaking, that's going to cost you $3,000. Going with 4-wheel drive in this top-of-the-line High Country trim will cost you $83,195. Yeah, big jump. And my test car included 3 big ticket options and cost $92,000. All right, with that, now is a good time for me to pull over and show you around and inside and under the hood of this updated 5th generation Tahoe. Looking at the front of the car, you can see the changes right away. Part of the redesign was this new lighting right here, and you can see these thin LED strips. This top one right here just below the hood line, and then another one that kind of wraps around the main beams right here. All trims of Tahoe received this front fascia update, but the High Country stands out with this Galvano chrome that you see here incorporated into the grille and down low here at the base of the front bumper. You also see some chrome wrapped around the bow tie right here. And the hood itself is actually got a lot going on. From the A-pillar, you have this like bracket shape that comes all the way down to the front here. So 2 lines here, the hood keeps down, the actual hood line comes down around here and then around the front, but then it rises up again towards the center, and then you have a point right in the center. So the hood is actually a complicated piece of metal. Yet, I still want to show you more about what's underneath it. Well, there you have it. Tucked way back and almost underneath is your 6.2 liter V8. This is an overhead valve, naturally aspirated V8, 420 horsepower, 460 pound-feet of torque. Your windshield washer fluid is super easy to get to on the driver's side over here. Looking at the Tahoe in profile, this gives you a good look at a new color for 2025, Lakeshore Blue Metallic. For the High Country at least, this is one of the standard colors you can get, and I have to say, I really like it. This particular High Country also has the $4,835 High Country Deluxe package, and that includes many things in the interior, but also power running boards, which run the full width of the side of the vehicle, and an air suspension. Once we get to the interior of the Tahoe, I'll tell you more about the High Country Deluxe package. I will go ahead and put the dimensions up on the screen so you can check those out, and let you know I have a lot more information in the description. You are looking at 24-inch wheels on the 2025 Tahoe. This is an optional wheel, $2,225 for this. These things are large and in charge. It is not just the High Country that you can get them. You can also get them on RST and higher trims, but the standard wheel is a small 22-inch wheel. The base LS trim gets an 18-inch wheel. Most trims come standard with 20s. High Country gets the standard 22s. And yes, this is a square setup. The wheels and tires in back are the same size as what's in front. Looking at the car from the back, here's a nice view of these lit tail lights, they have this nice LED glow, and you do have this nice little chrome element mixed in between the two lighting elements. That's nice. You have this big broad box for your tail lights, but then this gloss black does kind of carry through right across the center with the bow tie in the center back to the other side. Back here is your trailer hitch, of course, and then down low you have quad exhaust tips. Now, these guys, they are real, but it is just the tips. It is a single exhaust that comes back and it splits around the rear axle. And as I'm sure you could guess, it fits quite a lot of stuff inside. The Tahoe has something called the AutoSense power liftgate. As long as you have the key fob in possession with you and you approach it, it will automatically open for you without kicking anything, waving your legs anywhere, touching anything. So if your hands are full, just give it a few seconds and it will open for you. And once it's open, you get 26 cubic feet of storage behind the third row, and you do also have a little bit of storage underneath that. It's pretty shallow in here, maybe an inch or two, but by the way, I should have mentioned earlier, you do have a full-size spare mounted underneath here if you need more than 26 cubic feet of storage and don't need to carry more than you and 3 passengers. The third row folds down, power automated like that, to give you 73 cubic feet of storage. If you need even more cargo space than that, and it's only you and 1 passenger, the second row goes through a pretty complicated articulating motion to give you 123 cubic feet of storage and room for you and that single passenger. Plenty big, obviously, to carry my bike, but let's see just how big. Well, like I said, the loading floor is a bit high, but yeah. Let's take a look inside. We are looking at a jet black and mocha interior. Mocha, jet black, it's all very lovely. And because this is a high country, we have authentic, that's real wood decor right there. And here is a better look at the second row captain's chairs and all the different controls that they have. Pull this twice, what happens? That's what happens, which gives very easy access to the third row. 3 people can sit back there. I am 5 feet 11 inches tall, and you can see that I have even more knee room right now. But to be fair, I did move the seat back, so I am pretty much in the all the way back position. You can see here's the front of my second row versus the front of the second row, which I haven't moved back. Perhaps you're saying, who cares? What is this big, massive screen right in front of me? This has the technology and entertainment package, and that means that I have that auto sensing liftgate in back that I already showed you, but also these screens back here, which provide tons of entertainment. In fact, my 8-year-old son was already back here, made use of it. We do have second row heated seats, our own climate control zone, USB Type-C and USB Type-A ports right there, and an AC plug beneath that. There's another look at that 2-tone interior, plus more rear wood right here with a nice little chrome element right there. You do have 2-position seat memory, the usual controls on the door right there, a nice high country door sill right there, and plenty of controls for the power seats, including lots of lumbar support. You do also have quite a few controls to the left of the steering wheel, and you can electrically adjust the tilt and telescope of the steering right here. Push button start is down low right here. And there is your 11-inch fully digital instrument cluster and your 17.7-inch center display. And not to be outdone, we do also have a nice big head-up display right there. So, head-up display, digital instrument cluster, center display, 2 screens for the second row, And even the rearview mirror doubles as a display for another camera. Yeah, lots of big screens inside. The steering wheel itself is a nice big rim, and it is a new design. It does also say High Country right there, and it is a nice fat rim. You do have paddle shifters, upshift on the right, downshift on the left. It is also heated steering wheel, which, as you can see, is very welcome this time of year. We also have several media controls on the right and cruise control options on the left. The updated Tahoe also gets a new center console design, and it is lovely. It is nice and wide. You do have a big wide smartphone charger right here, another little platform right here, another USB type A and C port right there, two big cup holders, and more storage down low, nice and wide. We do also have pockets down here on both sides. All right, I mentioned the High Country Deluxe package when we were outside, the automatic running boards and the air suspension. There's also quite a bit of content inside, not least of which is the Max trailering package, which is why we do have the brake controller right here. We do also have a lot of other trailing bits. We also have hill descent control, but the big and most obvious one is the panoramic moonroof right here that covers all of the first and second rows and does include an electric privacy panel, which is lovely, but also quite dark. The first two of your 3-zone climate control system is right here at the base of the screen. You can touch the screen right here to control all that stuff, but you do have manual dials and buttons beneath that. And we also have Google Assistant, Google Play Store, and Google Maps. And that means that I can very easily just say, set the temperature to 72 degrees.
All right, changing the temperature to 72 degrees.
Google Assistant understands you clearly, operates quickly, and has a lot of functionality. Okay, let's talk drive modes. But actually, before we do, let's talk about ride height, because if you press this button right here, this doesn't affect drive modes. It actually affects the suspension ride height. You can change between entry exit, normal, and increased at any given time. You can also take it all the way to maximum, but to do that, you have to be in 4 low. But if you go to increased, this little green indicator right here will pop up to show you that the vehicle is raising, and now you can see that the vehicle is raised. All right, but let's talk drive modes. Just turn the dial right here, and you have 4 drive modes: normal, sport, off-road, and tow haul. And because this Tahoe is equipped with air suspension and adaptive shock absorbers, changing it to sport and off-road does a lot more than just change the powertrain settings. You get real suspension changes as well. So we'll have to play around with that just a little bit. To do that, we're gonna have to get back to the drive. So let's get back to the drive. All right, let's dig into the powertrain. Where does 420 horsepower and 460 pound-feet of torque come from? Well, the High Country is the only trim Tahoe that comes standard with the larger of the 2 V8s offered, a 6.2-liter naturally aspirated V8. It is offered in the RST, Z71, and Premier trim Tahoes, but standard engine for those SUVs, as well as the LS and LT, is a 5.3-liter V8, which makes 355 horsepower and 383 pound-feet of torque. This 6.2-liter V8 does have a slightly higher compression than that 5.3-liter. You have an 11.5 to 1 compression ratio. You also get direct fuel injection, and just like the 5.3-liter, this is a pushrod overhead valve engine. Sadly though, it does ask for premium gasoline. As I mentioned at the top, optional across the board, including this High Country, is a turbocharged 3-liter inline-6 diesel engine. It makes 305 horsepower and 495 pound-feet of torque. That is a nice upgrade compared to the outgoing diesel, which may do with 277 horsepower and 460 pound-feet of torque. That diesel engine will be available across the Tahoe lineup, but not yet. Chevrolet said there is a late availability for that diesel engine, and it's not out yet. Regardless of which engine you choose, any of the 3 are attached to a 10-speed automatic transmission, and I'm happy to say that it is a nice quick shifting transmission with a wide ratio range and operates really well. 5 of the 6 trims come standard with rear wheel drive, but the Z71 is standard 4-wheel drive, and 4-wheel drive is optionally available otherwise. And I have to admit that I might be a little nostalgic, or maybe a little bit old school, or maybe I'm just a little bit old, but I have to admit I quite like having a nice big rumbly V8 under the hood of this big SUV. And if I floor the accelerator, I get quick reaction, a beautiful sound, and strong pull. That 420 horsepower makes itself known right away. And this 10-speed automatic transmission is quick to give you a lower gear. The kickdown is fast, the reaction time is fast. That is healthy. And that was in the normal driving mode. If I switch it to sport and floor the accelerator again, yeah. Oh, the pull. What's great about it isn't the amount of acceleration on its own. That's not the biggest driver of it, but the reaction you get, how quickly you get the pull, is really, really nice. And the 10-speed automatic transmission makes quick work to get you either in the torque peak or the power peak really quickly. And the two aren't that far away from each other. Torque peak comes at 4,100 RPM, horsepower peak at 5,600 RPM. But even if I slow way down and then stab the accelerator, yeah, you get good pull. This has good mid-range and just robust, strong acceleration pretty much across the board. And that beautiful V8 roar, I just really love that. The Chevrolet small block V8 just delivers great, natural, fundamental, visceral, primal power, and I really just dig it. Now, there is a price for all of this, of course. This does not get the best fuel economy. This weighs nearly 3 tons after all, and 6.2 liters is a lot of liters. You get 14 miles to the gallon in the city, 18 miles to the gallon on the highway, 16 combined. Now, you can improve that a little bit if you go with a smaller V8 or if you go with rear-wheel drive instead of 4-wheel drive, but it's still not great. I'll go ahead and put those numbers up on the screen right now for you to check out. Yeah, you're well behind any of the car-based unit construction SUVs out there, to be sure. But while fuel economy is very important, it's clearly not nearly as much fun as accelerating. Big rumbly V8, of course I had to test that. Let me show you right now. All right, everybody, time for an acceleration test. See how this updated 2025 Chevrolet Tahoe can do. Old school muscle, you could call it. I do have it in the sport driving mode, and I put it in 4 high as opposed to 4 auto, so that I know I got all 4 wheels turning for me at the same time. I am not expecting any wheel slip, even in this weather, but let's find out. Okay, coming to a complete stop. For the accelerator. Oh, nice. Oh, V8 roaring. Fast shifts. Oh, man. Good muscle. That is old school, but very effective muscle right there. We got up to like 4th or 5th gear just with that quick acceleration run. 420 horsepower, 460 pound-feet of torque. Plenty to get this nearly 3-ton big box SUV moving. Strong acceleration from the Chevrolet Tahoe High Country, even with 24-inch wheels. All right, let's dig into this chassis. And this really is interesting because since the 2021 model year, the Chevrolet Tahoe is actually a 4-wheel independent suspension. You have control arms up front and a multi-link suspension in the rear. This is not a solid rear axle. And the ride is pretty darn good in this thing. But the independent suspension isn't the only news here. This also has an air suspension, thanks to the High Country Deluxe package. And that means that we have adjustable spring rates, it's load leveling, and it really can help manage body control to keep this thing flat, especially when you're in the sport mode. Even more so, we also have MagneRide shocks in this. So this has adjustable shock absorbers on top of the adjustable springs, on top of the four-wheel independent suspension. So yes, this is a body-on-frame SUV, but this is a very nice riding body-on-frame SUV. And when you're in the normal driving mode, this thing is downright plush. It absorbs bumps and lumps in the road with ease and just kind of wafts over undulations in the pavement. Yet, when you switch it to the sport mode, you can feel things firm up right away in the springs and in the shock absorbers. On top of that, that also gives this SUV a lot more flexibility if you want to go off-road. And indeed, you have an off-road mode. But more important to this particular Tahoe, especially this one with the 24-inch wheels, tow haul mode. Having an air suspension to keep the rear up and level, even with a heavy load in back, that's really important and potentially very helpful and adds to stability while you're towing. Speaking of, you can tow up to 8,400 pounds in the Tahoe, but you actually have to get the 5.3 liter Tahoe to do that. The 6.2 liter is a little bit heavier after all. Two things add weight to this truck: getting the bigger engine and getting four-wheel drive instead of just two-wheel drive. This does have the max trailering package, which does increase towing capacity, but with the added weight, the Tahoe High Country with four-wheel drive can tow 8,100 pounds. In some ways, you think about the price of this SUV, 92 grand, and it's like, yeah, it better ride really well. But when you think about the roots of this truck, that this is a Chevrolet Silverado frame that we're starting from, Chevrolet did a lot of really good work to add sophistication to this suspension and adjustability to this suspension. In a lot of ways, I really am impressed with this. And that's true on roads like this and on the interstate. I did test it there as well. Let me show you that. All right, everybody, time for a quick stint on the interstate. See how the Tahoe feels on the open road. This does, of course, have tons of driving aids. I will go ahead and put them up on the screen for you to check out right now. That does include lane centering, lane departure warning, adaptive cruise control, and on and on. And I will have all that stuff on to see how it works for the test. But we do not have Super Cruise on this Tahoe. Chevrolet says it will eventually offer it here, but this does not have it. Okay, cruise control is set at 78 miles an hour to go with traffic. I do have the adaptive cruise control on. I do have the lane centering on, and I do have the car set in four-wheel drive auto once again, and I am back in the normal driving mode. And I am also going through a subtle curve right now, so I will go ahead and take my hands off the wheel. And it's a little late. It doesn't like to keep you centered in the lane. This is more of a keep you from leaving the lane as opposed to keeping you constantly centered in it. It is pretty effective at getting you back into the center, but it doesn't hold you dead narrow in the center like other systems can, including Super Cruise, for example. I do also have the assistant screen up on the instrument cluster so you can see what the SUV sees. As you can see, it is a single lane of information right there, and the lines on either side, the white lines on either side, that's what indicates that the lane centering is on, and the fact that I'm yellow means I'm on one side of the lane, not centered. We are going through a subtle curve once again. So yeah, that's how that system works. More fundamentally, the seats are very comfortable in the Tahoe. Obviously, I have plenty of space. It's very spacious in here. This is a very wide vehicle. So shoulder room, elbow room, all that's really nice. The seat material is comfortable. The cushioning and the support is nice. And the amount of cabin isolation is a nice surprise as well. Now, this is not premium car level, this is not as quiet as the Buick Enclave I recently tested, for example. But it's actually pretty close to that. And considering how big this thing is, how big of a frontal area it has, all the air it has to push out of the way, it's pretty darn impressive how well these cabin isolates wind and road noise. I am 24-inch wheels as well. Impressed that these tires don't make more noise than they do. It's also, not only is it snowing outside, it's pretty windy as well. So all those factors considered, this is actually pretty impressively quiet. Obviously, the big caveat to all this is fuel economy. You're definitely going to be paying a healthy amount when you get to the pump. But other than that, this really is a fantastic highway cruiser. So, what do I think of this 2025 Chevrolet Tahoe High Country? I mean, the amount of luxury in this, just going back to the traditional days, the old school days of being in a Chevrolet, this is quite a ways away from that. The amount of luxury in here, and not just like heated and ventilated seats, heated steering wheel, and all that kind of stuff, great, but Google Assistant, Alexa built in, all those things, air suspension, Magna-Ride shocks, four-wheel independent suspension, all of that really just up-levels the ride and feel of this car. Not to mention these very comfortable and supportive seats, tons of space, of course. Yeah, this is just a really strong SUV that has a lot of flexibility and capability built into it. But it is kind of old school in nature, and that in of itself has positives and negatives. I love this V8. I like the way it sounds. I love the response it delivers, and the amount of power is fantastic. But by modern standards, the fuel economy, that's pretty poor. And this wants premium gasoline, not regular gasoline. I haven't seen premium gasoline for less than $4 a gallon in years. So if you're interested in a truck like this, you just have to approach it with an open mind, knowing that there's going to be expenses attached to it. At the same time, if you have a lot of family or a lot of stuff or something big to haul around, this can take care of all of that. And now we can say for sure, can do it with a lot of modern technology and a whole lot of space and comfort. I'm Robin Warner. Thank you very much for watching.